This is Still a Part of Us, a podcast where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Lee Red, and in this episode of Advice and Encouragement from a Lost Dad, I chat with Jim, whose daughter Jordan was born full term but died a day after due to a cardiac defect. By the way, you could hear Jim's and his wife Jen's episode about the birth of their child on episode 58 and 60. Today, Jim and I discuss about how you do not need to feel bad asking a mourning parent if they would like to talk about their child. That the parent will let you know if they are ready to or if they are not ready to talk about their child. But it is best to ask, because if you do not say anything, it's just a missed opportunity for you. As a word of caution to our listeners, this discussion contains emotional triggers of stillbirth and infant loss. Please keep yourself emotionally and mentally healthy and seek help if needed. Hope this helps somebody out there. Welcome to Still a Part of Us. We are talking with Jim, who is the father of his daughter Jordan, who died because of she passed away a day after she was born due to a heart defect. And Jim was so wonderful and gracious to come and talk with us. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. What are some advice that you would like to pass on to anybody? Be it good advice, be it bad advice, what are some things that you would like to talk about?
Being a father, you feel different to a mother. So I would say advice for whoever lost a child or whoever trying to support those people just going through difficult time. I would say men and women, they're very different. To me, as a man, I think I can do this just by myself most of the time. To be honest, I don't need too much of the support like women do. For example, my wife, she prefer someone can talk to her, remind her things of baby. Most of the time, myself, I can handle it myself without any kind of support. But I want to say for the husbands or for the people want to support, don't be afraid to mention the tragedy.
Yeah.
And my wife, she likes to talk about it. Some people like to talk about it. So I would say advice, if you can just make sure, do you like to talk about it or not? If you do, and that's a good thing to help a grieving parent. And for husband, I would say just to be patient and be careful to your wives, because they might sometimes be very emotional. You can do something wrong or say something wrong. So just to be careful. And because, the baby, the husband is not the one carries the baby, it's the mother.
Yeah.
So we do feel the difference. That's the fact. One more last thing I would say, it is okay to grieve, but you have to remember your life still goes on. If you have other responsibilities, you still have to do it. So it's okay to be sad, to grieve, but just think of the bright side as well.
Yeah. And I do agree with both advices that you said, that I tried to do it in the beginning by myself as well. I was like, I have to be there for my wife. I have to be the support for my wife. And then there was, at one time, it didn't work. And I crumbled and I had sort of an emotional breakdown as well. And then after that, my wife, Winter, was saying, let's also get you a way to express your pent-up anger and stuff like that. So the fathers and the mothers of children both experience something completely different. I agree with that. And then when you were saying, some people like to talk about it and some people don't want to talk about it. And like you said, don't be afraid to ask, would you like to talk about your child? And some days I do want to talk about my child. Some days I do want to talk about my son. And I'm sure some days you want to talk about Jordan. And some days you just don't want to talk about the events that happen. And, friends and family who are interacting with you, don't be afraid to ask. Just like you said there, Jim, don't be afraid to ask. And if that day we do feel like talking, or if we don't feel like talking, then at least you'll be able to steer the conversation the way it needs to be. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We hope that you and your wife, Jen, and your 2 daughters are able to heal and to celebrate your third daughter, Jordan. And we're so very grateful that you came and talked with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like to thank Jem for coming and opening up about his daughter Jordan and his experience with how he and his wife Jen are mourning Jordan. Once again, please keep yourself safe, and if you have a lost mom or dad in your life, please be in touch with them so they can keep themselves safe too. Head over to our website, stillapartofus.com. There you can find the show notes for this episode. There you could sign up for a short and helpful email newsletter. There you can learn how you could become a patron and support the work it takes to produce this show for a few dollars a month. And lastly, there you could find out how to get in touch with us if you would like to share your child's story on the show. The show was produced and edited by Winter and Lee Red. Thanks to Josh Woodward for letting us use his song, Vanishing Note. You could find him at joshwoodward.com. And lastly, subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our children are no longer with us, they are still a part of us. Isn't it nice to think that tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it yet? L.M. Montgomery.